Good evening, friends. My name is Shantanu Prakash, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an education entrepreneur, to be precise. And over the really long part of my career as an entrepreneur, I've had the unique privilege of doing many interesting and many disruptive things. As you heard in the introduction, I have worked single-handedly to really create a technological revolution in the field of education technology in India. I have been very inspired by a vision that classrooms should be places of learning and not places of boredom and drudgery. The smart class system that me and my team put together today reaches out to more than 50 million kids across hundreds of thousands of classrooms, not just in India, but also across the world. I've done an IPO, I've done mergers and acquisitions, I've raised foreign currency bonds, I've sold companies, I've operated in more than 27 countries across the world. So it's been an interesting life so far. The typical life of an entrepreneur, I would say. And what does that mean and what does that entail? That entails, for example, really working your back off. So 16 hours, days back to back, traveling 20 days in a month, very focused on the balance sheet of the company and your own balance sheet, the stresses, the pain, the conflicts, all of the above packed into a really interesting roller coaster ride. And this is in fact the dream that many young people like you, many startup entrepreneurs wish to have. They wish to go through the pain and the stress and the tension of running large enterprises, but also simultaneously making a positive contribution to society and the world. So things were going on very well. The company was scaling. We had 10, 12,000 employees in the company. We were making positive impact. I was winning all kinds of awards. And I had all this press coverage coming and saying, how great of an entrepreneur and businessman I was. But there was one small little problem with all of this. And that problem is that no matter what I was doing, and no matter how good English and how good adjectives that I framed it in, it was, end of the day, all about my vision, my wealth, my team, my product, my company's glory. There was just too much of I, me, and myself in everything that I was doing. And this is really an interesting phenomena because, when we glorify business people, and in today's, capitalism 2.0, we feel that the quest for wealth is an end by itself. And that's glorified, and that's put on magazine covers, and that's put on, lists and ranks and who made more money and so on and so forth. But what was missing was the fact that me and my entrepreneurial skills, were they being underutilized, for example? I believe that entrepreneurs are a very special species and a very special breed of people because they can create magic out of nothing. If you look at my journey and that of hundreds and millions of entrepreneurs across the world, we start from almost nothing and then we build large-scale enterprises. I started with zero capital. In the peak, my company was worth $2.5 billion. The number is not important. I think what is important is along the journey, a lot of employment got created, a lot of value got created, new products, new services, a new paradigm. But end of the day, there was a framework around it. And that framework was, what's our quarterly profit going to be? How much money are we going to make doing this? What are we going to do to please investors, for example? So, great objectives. If you read the mission and vision statement of the company, that doesn't talk like this. The vision statement said, our vision is to transform education and focus on excellence. But all the actions that we were taking as a company, it was focused on the vision as well. But there was another bottom line out there. And the bottom line, as I mentioned, was all about us, our profits, our value and our wealth and our valuation and so on. So there was more than a small disconnect around that. And then something really interesting happened to me. I was nominated by the World Economic Forum to a group called the Global Futures Council. And the Global Futures Council is a group of really high value people from across the world, from different disciplines. And I walk into this room where the meeting of this council is happening, and that's a council on migration, a subject about which I know nothing. I can speak on education for hours, but ask me to speak on migration or refugees, what do I know about any of this? So anyhow, I walk into this room for 20 high power people, chairmen of corporations and so on, and they're talking about this topic, about how the dispossessed, the marginalized, people who have nothing in their life, when they migrate or they're forced to migrate from nations of conflict to other host countries, what kind of issues and situations that they go through. And for a moment, I forgot about the fact that, I had a big company and an enterprise to run. And I started thinking about these penniless, dispossessed people. And I realized that somewhere I had more than a deeper connection with this. And my connection was the fact that I'm a first generation refugee. My father migrated during India's partition from now Pakistan back to India. And when he came here, he was penniless. He just has hopes and dreams and aspirations. They had nothing, no property at all, except a desire to make a new life. And then I realized that I was an entrepreneur, and here are these millions of people who are refugees, and there is such a striking similarity between these two kinds of people. For example, they are very risk-taking because they have nothing to lose. They are very flexible. You can make them do almost anything. They have no fear of failure because, when you are a refugee, you can die just going from one place to the other, for example. And then I put on my hat as an entrepreneur, and I said that all the skills that I've used in my life so far to create wealth and shareholder value and so on, this sort of framework that I've put around my entrepreneurial skills, what if I was able to break that frame and make this a new version of entrepreneurship that, for want of a better word, I'll simply say entrepreneurship 2.0 or borderless entrepreneurship. So then I could really flex my talent and my skills to doing something bigger, to transform society, to make a positive contribution to the world and not just to the narrow confines of my company. And suddenly I had this moment of epiphany and I said, wow, that sounds like a goal that I should passionately pursue. So I set up a foundation called the R Ventures Foundation. And this foundation looks at the intersection between refugees and entrepreneurs and sees how we can take these people who are really at the bottom of every job chain, food chain, value chain, and we can take these people and we can put them on top of the job supply chain. So they can become job creators rather than job consumers. And the moment we went out to the world with this message, we found so much support coming to us from all corners of society. Fundamentally, human beings are wonderful people. They want to do good things. They want to think about all positive things to do. But many of us lack the leadership or the time or even the motivation to do it. And we're always looking for platforms and people who we can follow. So I realized that perhaps in my own life and the life of hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs who make the world a better place every day with their products and their companies and the services, maybe there is another version of what we could as an entrepreneurial community do. We all know that today's world has never been more conflicted. Our world has never been a more volatile place to be in, for example. There are all these kind of issues. We call it the VUCA world. We have global warming, we have conflict, we have all kinds of discrimination going on. And today, if the smartest people on the planet are focused on creating a new social media app or a dating app, or they're going to focus on creating, for example, products, I'm not saying they're not useful. But probably there is a bigger picture and a bigger vision that the entrepreneurial community can adopt. And that is the frameless, borderless model of entrepreneurship, where entrepreneurs can use their skills and the unique talent that's been gifted to them by nature, by God, and apply those talents to solving large societal issues. The interesting thing? Many entrepreneurs, when they've made personal wealth, they start talking about philanthropy, about giving back to society. You all heard about that, isn't it? What if it was the other way around? What if you don't need entrepreneurs who spend the prime years of their life working for themselves and want to spend the last 10 years of their working life working for society? How about the other way around? Where you use the prime years of your talent and your life working to make the world a better place, and then perhaps look at the last 5 or 10 years of your life to think about yourself. It's not going to be an easy journey to make this happen. In fact, this Entrepreneurship 1.0, which is about I, me, myself, and 2.0 it's about us and the world. Maybe we should change this. We should start thinking about young people in colleges spending the first 10 or 15 years of their life focused on being entrepreneurs for the rest of the world. Maybe we need capitalism 3.0 to enable and to make this happen. The other interesting thing that I'm doing right now is to go out to another special breed of people, which are the social scientists, the social entrepreneurs, the unsung community. You rarely find them being covered in Economic Times or the Forbes magazine, because nobody wants to hear their stories of how they built, 1 million toilets, for example. There's a great example of Sulabh Shauchalay, which is one of the fantastic entrepreneurs. But you rarely find people talking about those kind of people. So I've launched a new series, and it's called Going Offline with Shantanu Prakash. And it's about going to people who've created massive social re-engineering or social disruption and extracting from them entrepreneurial words of wisdom that we can transmit to startup entrepreneurs from across the world. So using my own life as an example, I think I could have achieved far more than what I have today had I started to think about being a frameless, borderless entrepreneur 2.0 when I was 25 years old rather than when I was 52 years old. Thank you very much.